it's Emily Freitag, and I'm so happy to be talking today to Adeel Khan at MagicSchool AI. Adeel, thanks for being part of the AI in Action Learning Tour, and we're excited to hear about your story as well as the product. So, Adeel, tell us about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the founding story and how you came to be here running MagicSchool.
Yeah, so I started my journey as a teacher. As my first job out of college. I was a special education teacher in Atlanta, Georgia. Taught in public schools all over the city. I eventually moved on to a middle school where I was a social studies teacher. And when I was a special education teacher, I co-taught English classes at a high school. So did that for a bit, and then transitioned into school leadership. Was an assistant principal in just about like every assistant principal role. I always say like I was like the dean of students. I was the cultural leader of a building. Uh, I was the academic leader of a building and supporting instructional coaching, and the instructional coaching strategy in a school building. And then eventually I was an interim principal at a school, and then I got a chance to open my own public high school in Denver, Colorado, where I live now. That was kind of my dream manifest. It's an incredible school. It serves kids in the northeast of Denver, the majority of whom are from low-income backgrounds, kids of color. And now 100% of them are accepted to four-year colleges year over year, who graduate from the school. And very simple premise, which is we're going to hold really high expectations for kids. We're going to love the heck out of them. We're going to build really strong relationships with them, and good things will happen. And they very much did. So you can hear a little bit of like my education philosophy within the story of the school I founded. Is I think relationships are the heart of learning. I think that every great school has great curriculum, has great content they put in front of students, has really rigorous academic grade level content that kids must engage with to get the right education and achieve really great results. My school is a top performing public high school in Denver, so I know a thing or two about getting great results for kids. So all those things are true, but none of it stands unless kids really know that you care about them, and they have connection with the adult in the room and feel safe and in a culture of learning. And so that was our first priority when we built our school. And I think that's still the fundamental thing that makes really great schools. Those other things are so much easier if you have a great relationship with students and you have a great culture of learning in your building. Um, and from there, I went on to the district. I coached principals for a year, and then I moved on. I took some intentional time off. I wasn't sure what I'd do next. I traveled for a bit, and I came back in November of 2022 to my home in Denver and started exploring like the next opportunity that I might pursue. I actually thought maybe I'd be a superintendent somewhere, or my life's been about like impact. It's like, how can I make more impact on kids like me who came from low-income backgrounds? And superintendent felt like a role I could do that in, as well as other ones I was exploring. And then it happened to be the moment that ChatGPT came out into the world.
Mhm.
So I, like many folks in education and in the zeitgeist that was kind of captured by this new technology, was tinkering with it, and I just saw such a big opportunity for impact with the tool, and this new technology of generative AI. It was one of the first technologies I really felt was practically useful. Like it really could do things that would help both save me time and increase my impact. So as a special education teacher, I'd spend so much time trying to scaffold a text for a student who might be behind grade level, and I would test some of those use cases in the original version or ChatGPT at that time, I think 3.5 or whatever it was. Um, and I was like, oh, this can do it. Like this can do it pretty well. It wasn't perfect, but I was like, this would save me boatloads of time and like help me serve my kids in the way that I thought they needed. So I was like, okay, there's something here. I started taking it around to my peers in my old school. So I like quite literally went out to my old school building and showed it to teachers and showed them the use cases I thought they'd find really useful and would drive the kind of outcomes that I know that they wanted for our students. And they were jaws on the floor. Like, I can't believe that it just did this thing. And so I knew there was something there. And I kind of found the problem through those kind of like training sessions with teachers that it wasn't quite intuitive. Prompting's clunky. It's a blank screen and really hard to figure out like what are the use cases, what are the things that this can do, and to get a high quality response requires a ton of context, a ton of additional work. And like teachers are not people who are native to their computers and are living on their laptops all day, like a
Yeah.
lot of workers are. So I thought there was space for a product like Magic School for that reason, which is like teachers have these small windows of time between, their job, which is mostly, supporting students, building relationships, performing in front of kids. And we need to build something for them that's built for that environment and also loads in all that good context, best practices, uh, and gives them a really simple interface
Right.
and experience to allow them to still bring in their own knowledge. They're still the judgment of the technology, but more or less they're the director, and it's really education specific. I had a pretty strong point of view of the way the product would look, the kinds of tools that would be on it. I'd never been like a technology leader. I never thought to build software, but I thought this could be a moment to do it, and I was fortunate to have some friends who agreed that maybe I could do this. And I ran really fast, bootstrapped the product out of my living room.
Mhm.
Had some early amazing folks who decided to help me as like volunteers. So
Mhm.
we launched into the world without without a dollar in our pockets and me bleeding my bank account.
Mhm.
Um, and people like ask me, Magic School is massively impactful at this point. It's used in 160 countries.
Huge.
It's
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
huge.
it's the largest usage product.
Yeah. And people ask me, did you think this was possible? And like, I didn't believe it was probable,
Hmm.
but did I think it was possible? I thought the window was there. I thought that like there was like an opportunity where if we built something that was really like intimate to what the educators needed, they would love it. And that prediction, that 1% probability that probably at that time we had turned out to be true. And teachers shared it with other teachers. We had no budget. We weren't marketing it we weren't really doing anything except for maybe we started like social media accounts and tried to get attention, whatever, free ways we could.
Yes.
Uh, but it spread like wildfire. And again, like it's now the most used platform, AI and education platform in the world.
Yeah.
And teachers like took to it and they found it to be really, really useful. Um, and now there's like a student side of the product and there's all kinds of stuff. And we're growing the team and, we have 200 plus people who work at Magic School and we're always innovating and building new things. But the core is still there. It's this teacher's assistant that intimately knows your work and cares deeply about student outcomes
Mhm.
and puts you in control and trusts you as the teacher.
Thank you for that story. I hear in it such a range of your own experience, and it makes sense to me knowing that you're a special educator, that you built such a range of functionality in terms of student accommodation into the platform. I've seen it in action in a few different schools, and we've talked to a bunch of people who use Magic School and are very committed to it. It's definitely a product that has a sticky audience base. Tell us how you think about usage, because there are some products we've seen on this tour that have just a huge range of uses. And at the end of the day, like the definition of success is that teachers feel like they can use it. And then there's some products that like have a really specific point of view about what's going to drive student impact and design it around that. I feel like Magic School is like in the broader flexible category. Can you tell us just practically about like how the product gets used, and you can, describe or demo whatever is useful here. And then also tell us a little bit about the philosophy under that as connects to this question of student impact.
Yeah, great question. So, some of that question is answered in the story of the product, right? Like, so when we launched Magic School, in some sense, it was one of the first to market products, right? So, um, Magic School I think of Magic School as like we're building alongside K-12 schools and what they are ready for and what they want.
Mhm.
So at that time, the very like the use case that was very clear that was even then pretty controversial was using AI. Using AI at all was controversial
Mhm.
at that
Mhm.
time.
I
So
mean,
like
still is arguably,
still
but
is. But
certainly.
but at that time it was banned by most school districts, even for teachers. So like
Mhm.
ChatGPT was banned internally for teachers.
Mhm.
Most generative AI tools were completely banned. So we actually had to convince people that letting teachers use generative AI in education at all was a worthwhile endeavor.
Mhm.
So that's the origin of Magic School Story. Is like let's demonstrate why this technology can be powerful and
Yeah.
useful So some of the tools in the platform demonstrate that. So you go into Magic School, you can build a rubric, you can scaffold a text, you can ask a question when you're struggling through a normal challenge in a school building and it knows you're an educator. So an example I used to demo very early in the platform was using our chat bot that is very similar to like an education version of a chat GPT. And it's a teacher who is typing in like, I have a parent coming into the building because Johnny hit Sally and I haven't, and they're angry and they just yelled at me on the phone. What do I do?
Mm.
Right. So it's like kind of demonstrating that, hey, it's giving really good help here.
Yep.
Hey, it's saying to keep it calm. Here's a sample agenda. Listen to the parent, things that you'd want the teacher to do, especially like a first year teacher like I was, where that's a true story from my own life, where like this might be the difference between me staying in the classroom and having a good interaction with that family that's really upset and
Hmm.
leaving the classroom because I don't think I can do this and I don't have the support to do this. So
Hmm.
there was like the beginnings of the product was like, let's just get these assistive tools to teachers that can help them with
Hmm.
these really common use cases to help educate them on what they can do with generative AI and make sure those experiences are really high quality. So when you build a rubric, does it look like a rubric?
Hmm.
Did it work the way you expected it to? Does it feel high quality? Does it look the more like the ones you'd build and maybe have some tweaks? Back then, that was pretty hard to do with the normal models. And when you use Magic School, you're like, oh yeah, it says rubric generator. It's a rubric. That's what I
Hmm.
want, and I can edit it. Like, so there was something about that early on that really took hold and people really valued.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the
Does that
story.
use case change now that more people are on Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT and more familiar, or do you still see it serving that same value proposition?
I think it still serves the same value proposition for so many teachers. Remember, teachers are on a spectrum
Yep.
where there are some teachers who are deep in Claude,
Hmm.
right? And they might have a connector to their email and they're doing a lot of stuff with Claude. That is not most teachers.
Hmm.
That is,
So
I was just
widgetizing the functionality still, you think, is
there's
serving.
still people who truly have never touched it, right? Like
Yep.
have truly have heard about it and have no idea. So, and quite frankly, it's a better experience to build a rubric on Magic School. You can
Hmm.
attach content. You can you
Hmm.
just have the fields you need to fill in. It's just and it's going to come out like a better quality. We build in a ton of
Hmm.
context. It's just and we have your district context aligned to it as well. It's just like I mean the tools are still a better user experience even for the most advanced user. It's like it's almost like the question of I can probably cut my own hair
Hmm.
but like, would I want to get all the tools, arrange them in a row? Like, it's like no. Like, I want the convenience of like something that knows what my intention is and is going to do this. Like, it's a similar kind of value prop for a teacher who again has
So is
very
there
limited.
anything off the table then? Like, what do you think? Are there functionalities that you think actually don't add up to productive value, even if they might sometimes be desired? Or is the underlying theory of change really more like, let's give teachers all the functions they could want or use, and then it's up to them to decide what to do with it?
I would say that it's something closer to the latter. That
Hmm.
we believe that we are going to like we are listening to educators, we are listening to school districts who are our customers, they're the ones who pay our bills,
Yep.
um, and we're saying what are the kinds of use cases that you think this is powerful for, and we do too, right? We have our own point of view. Um, but it's mostly learned through having this massive distribution of like how are the folks on the bleeding edge of this technology using this tech really powerfully. Let's zoom in on that. Let's talk to teachers. Let's talk to school district leaders and let's build in service of them. So the things that we build are typically things that we are seeing signal within our own product. That's one of the values of having the kind of
Yep.
distribution we have is that like, hey, there's like a school. I'll give you an example. There's a school district that we found that was using a tool in their district that was like had more usage than most every tool in our platform. And it was a custom tool that they built and launched
Hmm.
to the district. And we discovered it because we are like, whoa, what is this tool that like
Hmm.
is more popular than the tools that we built that our point of view had, right? It's like, hey, we gave you this ability to create a custom tool and launch it to your district. What is it? And it was an instructional coaching tool.
Hmm.
The district decided to build an instructional coaching tool where they attached their instructional coaching framework to it. So,
Hmm.
like essentially their teacher evaluation system,
Yep.
like knowledge source. They gave a system message to the tool that said, "Hey, here's the knowledge source that you should be working with. the instructional coach is going to use this tool by giving you notes on the observation that they have.
Mhm.
And what I want you to do is to make sure that it's spoken in the language of our instructional coaching framework so that teachers know what they can improve and they can get stronger scores on their teacher evaluation so that we can have consistency in the feedback that teachers are getting in the classroom that aligns to how they were trained on how they'd be evaluated. This is a beautiful use of generative AI. It
Mhm.
is saying, like, hey, the instructional coach can't carry 100% of the knowledge of every single term in in
In
the
the
instructional
rubric, or
coaching
that's just
framework.
additional cognitive load. Yeah.
Yeah, but the teacher, I mean, the instructional coach is in the classroom. They're making the
Mhm.
observations. Their instincts are right about how the teacher can improve. So how can we combine their instincts about what's happening in the classroom by the submitting their notes and then the knowledge base of how what great teaching looks like in this district? Those things come together and produce something that couldn't have happened before. And then the teacher gets something that's really crystal clear, feels aligned to the strategy they heard of at the beginning of the school year when they were taught about what the strategy was for the district. And that tool like essentially like the usage was through the roof because every single instructional coach across the district was like, this is just better. And it makes my job, I'm giving better feedback to teachers. I'm seeing them improve more.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that, hey, we're learning. We've never purported that Magic School is an instructional coaching tool, but can
Mhm.
it be used as such really
Yeah.
powerfully? Absolutely. And that's
We
the kind of
certainly
signal.
saw a lot of versatility in how teachers were building rooms to do different jobs. And then I think this use case that you're talking about, where like the district actually builds something that then they push out to everyone to use in a consistent way, is a really interesting frontier. I was also struck by how much we saw Magic School AI being used for AI literacy instruction. So it almost felt like a safe zone to let kids interact with essentially a school safe chat GPT version. Is that an explicit lane of focus for you? And are there um, uses that you hope Magic School will be able to serve on AI literacy development?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that, and I think that the student product, I think in the journey of Magic School is actually another kind of, we heard this from our district partners. They were like, look, we need a safe way for students to interact with generative AI because we don't feel like ChatGPT is safe. And they have good reason to believe that the consumer versions of ChatGPT and Gemini are not safe for children. They're not. Our own work, we have a evaluations team, and we wrote a white paper on student safety and companionship and
Mhm.
how the general models are very unsafe for children. So they asked us, like, hey, we know that using generative AI in the workplace is something that is going to be really important no matter who you are in the future. And but we need a safe way to do it.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of dialogue right now around screen time and those kinds of things. And we built the product around what districts required, right? So one, we have very strong moderations in the platform that we've tested. We built alongside Anthropic that will flag a teacher if a student is exhibiting concerning chat. They're saying it's essentially moderates their input. So it says like, hey, the child asked about being lonely, or the child asked about something that's not appropriate for the school setting or not appropriate to the assignment that they're supposed to be doing with this. So there's like moderations and flags that teachers get. Two, we build in guardrails so like when those questions are asked, they're redirected to the teacher or they're supported in the appropriate way. And then of course, if they try to do something that's not with academic integrity, the teacher's flagged and they don't get the answers like they would with a chat GPT.
Mhm.
Um, and then lastly, they're time bound. So, we talk about this with our platform is Magic School for students isn't something that a student can just log into and just use. Like
Mhm.
the only way a student gets access to Magic School is that the teacher has decided, I want to use this for a specific purpose. I'm
Mhm.
going to choose the purpose, which might be a tutoring tool. It might be a AI literacy tool where a student can create their own chatbot to see how it works. It's a writing feedback tool where a student can get rubric aligned feedback on the work that they've drafted themselves. Uh, but it's an intentional pause before you just like let Magic School or any AI tool out willy-nilly. It's like, is there an educational purpose for this?
Mhm.
And like, and then okay, if there is, and just plan it into your lesson, you have access to it, it's safe, you launch it, and then it closes, then it ends. The experience is time bound. It's not meant to be addictive, or
Mhm.
it's not meant to kind of do a lot of the downstream effects that a lot of generalized technology is meant to do, which is even chat, like certainly the worst is like smartphones and the
Hmm.
algorithms that dictate TikTok and out Instagram, and they're designed to keep you on screen so you view advertisements. That's also true of LLMs. Like that's true of ChatGPT and
Hmm.
Gemini. There's a reason why these tools are sycophantic, that they
Hmm.
tell you what you want to hear. They develop companionship with you. So these things we should be really cautious of when thinking about bringing generalized technology to an educational setting. And for us, we win when the district meets their goals,
This is where
not
I was
when.
going to go to close us. How do you evaluate the impact of the product, particularly on student learning, and whether it's achieving the ambitions?
So one, like because it's a platform, and I mentioned that there's very different use cases. One of the reasons that districts will choose us, and remember, they're choosing us over big trillion-dollar companies like Microsoft,
Mhm.
Google, it's because we are really hands-on with your goals. What are the things you want to do with this? So in the district I was describing earlier, one of their goals was in their strategic plan was instructional coaching. So we
Mhm.
sat with them and gave them a suggestion of, hey, like this is something we think can enhance your instructional coaching practice based on what you told us is your priority for this school year that is a part
Mhm.
of your theory of change. Now, when we get to like the real like specific to student outcomes, so that can take on a million different personalities. So I won't
Mhm.
bore you with like, we have 20% of America's school children are in partnership with Magic School as a district.
Yeah.
So each one of them is like bespoke and has very specific plans. But when it comes to student outcomes, we have some really promising data around like how Magic School, when used for very specific purposes, can make a big impact. So in Aurora Public Schools, there was a classroom that used a writing feedback tool that I described to you, where
Mm.
students get rubric aligned feedback on their essays that they've written on their own. So they got like areas of strength and areas of growth that's informed by the rubric that they'll eventually be graded on.
Yeah.
In this case, they were doing that based on the state rubric that was going to be assessed in that grade level. And they had a 28% improvement in their literacy scores
Mm.
in that classroom, like simply by doing those practice exams. And when doing those practice exams in class, also getting the ability to get just-in-time feedback, those areas of strength and areas of growth, and the ability to revise. A teacher named Johnny Lacey is the one who kind of led
Yeah.
that. We just had an article
Yeah.
come out today.
Writing feedback's a really clear theme across lots of products is something that I think people find a lot of value.
Totally. There's another one that's quite like hot off the press. That's
Mhm.
quite exciting. That actually is literally a news story shared in our team Slack around Harmony Public Schools, who just came out and said that they ask students to lead every AI interaction with their own thinking. So they use AI to expand on their ideas.
Mhm.
And then like the AI responds with Socratic questions rather than direct answers. They kind of programmed their own student-facing tool. They reported that students in special education and emergent bilingual programs reaching
Mhm.
70% growth with this change,
Mm.
outpacing their general education peers. Um, and this fall, they plan to replicate that and implement mandatory AI literacy coursework for all of their eighth graders. I can send along this article. It's
Yeah,
quite
great.
cool. So
Do
yeah,
you
there's
all
already
have
really.
any RCTs or QEDs underway for specific use cases, or is it just too flexible a product and it's hard to do that kind of research?
No, we actually have a lot of folks who are partnering with us to try to figure this out. So, like, for example, Aurora is undergoing a case study with Stanford right now to figure
Mhm.
out. There's another anecdote from Aurora where they did like a comp between their teachers with the highest test scores and specifically not just like the highest achievement, but like the highest growth year
Growth.
over year
Mhm.
for their state exams. And they internally compared that with Magic School's power
Mhm.
user, like which teachers had the highest usage of Magic School. And more or less, their conclusion is like it's almost one for one. Like if you're in the top 20
Interesting.
best results, you're also a top 20 AI user and Magic School user,
Mhm.
the platform they sponsor. And Stanford got wind of that and they were like, well, that's not enough. Like,
Mhm.
how are they using it? Like,
Right.
let's go interview those teachers and find out that like what is the thing that Magic School enabled them to do that is resulting in this? Because it's not necessarily always one for one perfect that this educational
Yeah,
tool built the outcome. And I think that like anyone who's telling you otherwise is disingenuous.
sure.
Like
Well,
I'll tell you
I'm
this
sitting
right
here
now.
thinking
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to do the opposite end of the spectrum too. Like, are there certain use cases that are actually not showing that kind of progress?
completely. And I think that like there's a part here where I told you our hypothesis, our theory, my own
Mhm,
formative experience is that relationships build great schools. So,
mhm,
like, if we save a teacher time in their
mhm,
classroom on their administrative paperwork, and they're repurposing that time to take, pull Johnny out of his third period and walk around with him because they saw him having a bad day, and
mhm,
built a stronger relationship with him, and help him pick up his head, and so he can engage in learning and be a
mhm,
great part of a great culture.
mhm.
That's really valuable. That's like the
Yeah.
intangible thing that like technologists don't want to talk about, and that they don't really understand the way schools work, quite frankly. It is not like an input output thing. It
Mhm,
is a real living organism, and culture matters, and the way that
mhm.
you support your teachers and the way they feel about their work every day matters, and creating an environment where they feel like they can actually handle their workloads, and you can encourage them to use
Yeah.
these tools to handle their workloads, creates better learning environments. And I think that that's what I'm most fascinated about. The part I left out in the story in the beginning was that I was looking at the current education market when I started magic school. I saw what was out there, and
Yeah.
what people were talking about was AI tutors would teach our children. They'd watch
Yeah.
YouTube, and then they'd have an AI tutor, and that would be enough. And as
Yeah.
someone who lived my life in schools, I was certain that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And that's why I took the bet on magic school, and did this thing, because like there wasn't something in the market that was as compelling.
Yeah.
And it seems like the education world has agreed.
Well, it certainly seems like you are going to have fascinating data and a really interesting set of different uses and implementations that we can all learn from. So I look forward to continuing to hear where it goes. And thank you so much for joining this tour and sharing your perspective.
Thanks so much, Emily. It was great to join you.